Hey guys, so I have been doing a lot of thinking, actually for a really long time. Um, I've been trying to put some pen to paper and get some thoughts out of my head, and I've shared many a post about how hard that has been. When I do, I usually turn to my WordPress and have whatever I might have to share on there, but as far as the things that I really talk about sharing, the things that people ask me to share, um, I've had trouble with that. So I figured now is as good a time as any. And rather than continuing to try to put that on paper, I would just start talking. Because I don't know what else to do, and I know that time's up, right? um, I'll start actually by saying I have to be in my natural element to be able to do this at all. Talking personally is not something that comes easy to me, and anybody who knows me knows that I'm emotional to begin with. So when it comes to sharing the deepest parts of me, expect that I'm gonna cry probably. So just cry with me. Also, I'm gonna have to smoke through this. I'm gonna have to medicate through this. So forgive me. And if you don't, I really don't care anymore. That's something that I haven't shared with many people throughout my life. I've medicated for a very long time. I've always been afraid of either getting in trouble or something happening with Eric. And now that we finally have medical legalization in the great state of Oklahoma, I don't have to worry about that anymore. And my child's now my man child. So, anyways, with that being said, uh, shout out Canna Nation, by the way, Canna fam. So, as everybody knows, or most of you know, maybe there are going to be people out there who see this and don't know. This last year, actually, is it after midnight? It is. So, 305 days ago today, I woke up from life support actually yesterday. And so it would be on the 304th day and then 305th day today. They waited a day. I was diagnosed with, at first what they said to me was HIV-3. At the time I didn't know the difference between that and AIDS. Now I do, so my diagnosis is and has always been AIDS. And yeah, it's changed my life. I I'd say I shouldn't be here, but I know for a fact that my life has a purpose. So let me talk about why I'm talking. My life, as many of you close to me know, has been a pretty emotional one. Emotionally challenging. There's been, well, I mean, gosh, see, I'm struggling already. You know, it started out with some sexual, incestual abuse as a child, and that led to a seizure disorder, which at the time they didn't understand. It wasn't until later that that was a PTSD response to the sexual abuse and trauma of what we had been through. Needless to say, that caused some confusion and some pain in my life when that came out, because it wasn't a situation where we were abused. It was a very loving situation. We were raised and basically trained to just be a certain way. And it uprooted my life and it made me question everything: family, trust, sexuality, what was real and what wasn't. And so I went through my teenage years sexually promiscuous and using drugs. I found meth first before anything, and not what we find on what people see now. Back when it was, I shouldn't be here now. The things that I did when I was younger. I'm proud to say I have a lot of years sober, but fast forward, and I had a couple of miscarriages, and I had some complications with some female problems, and I had my son Eric, my amazing miracle baby, and we moved to Oklahoma from California. And basically, it's just been a series of craziness for the better part of 2 decades. We separated and I remarried, and that marriage was not a good situation either. And out of that, I had started I questioned my sexuality for a long time, but I'd started wanting to explore that. And right out of the bag, I thought, oh, men, I swore off men, and I was a proclaimed lesbian, and I went through everything that entailed, coming out to my family and dealing with the sexual abuse and dealing with having a child that I didn't know what to say or do any of that with. And luckily, I was here in Tulsa, which actually has an amazing LGBTQ community, and I was around amazing people. So my son grew up with nothing but seeing unconditional love and support amongst that community. And what started out as a fear of me telling him turned into him asking me why I wasn't marrying my best friend, as I called her, because he thought that people just loved each other and got married. And boy, he just blew my mind. So that started some opening up in my life, and we shared a lot of things. Shortly after, I got really sick, and I had been fighting PCOS for years and years, and that had been a battle of health complications and miscarriages. And at 26, in a procedure to help thin the lining of my uterus, because I had been hemorrhaging for the better part of a year, my doctor found some precancerous cells and said that we could finally just do away with everything. That it was time. I'd begged for years for that to be done, and he thought that I was too young. It was a really crazy time in my life. I had just left my first real lesbian relationship with somebody that anyways, we'll get there later. In the process of all that, my grandmother died, and I was grieving, and I lost myself even more. I lost my stability. I lost the one solid foundation I'd had, and I was broken. That relationship that I left came back around a few years later. Somebody I love very much. I still love very much. And he was a she at the time, came back, and we chose to have a baby. And we wanted that family to be solid. We wanted to be as much of a complete family as we could be genetically.
And my son's father, my first husband, was kind enough and generous enough to help us do that. And from that, my daughter Cambria was born. My Cammy Cakes. We were one of the only I'm sorry. Whew. I get emotional when it comes to talking about my girl. Cambria was born a micropreemie, and we spent a lot of time in the hospital with her, and we didn't think she was going to survive. And boy, that brought out a strength and a lioness in me that I didn't know existed. And the strength that I saw in this human that held on to keep our daughter inside of them as long as they possibly could was just unreal. And so Cambria finally made it home after heart surgeries and after clearing up 4 different brain surgeries and after defying all odds. And they said she'd have cerebral palsy, and she defied it all. She came home. She was beautiful. And our memories were perfect. And a week before her first birthday, they were gone. And my life was devastated again. I never saw my daughter again. I still haven't. I still deal with that every day. I carry her with me every day. I started a depression that it's taken the better part of this decade, really honestly, to get through. I lost myself for a while. I did things I'm not proud of. I had a lot of ink therapy done at the time. Had a standing weekly appointment for quite a long time. Took a lot of friends with me. Got tattooed with a lot of them. A lot of great memories came out of what was a very tragic, nearly suicidal time in my life. I became more agoraphobic, and I didn't even know what that was. Doctors only just recently explained to me. And I didn't leave our home for 6 months. I didn't leave my room. I didn't see the light of day. I had a partner at the time who took care of me, who always took care of me. During that time, I made a stupid choice. Now, in retrospect, I knew it was a stupid choice then, but if any of you have followed my story, my soon-to-be ex-husband, who we've recently separated, and my previous partners and anybody I'd been with as of recently have all tested negative, so I did not contract this virus from them. Nor did I, by the grace of God, pass it to anybody. Probably due to the fact that by the grace of God, I don't even have any of my female reproductive organs. The likelihood at this point in time that it was contracted through a tattoo or the stupid decision that I made, and I'm almost 100% sure. I know, just in your soul when you know something. I knew that day it was a mistake. And the second I was diagnosed, it was the first thought I had. It doesn't matter, though. It doesn't matter. What matters is I have HIV. I don't just have HIV, I have AIDS. And a whole slew of other emotional and physical issues that go with that. a whole lot of things that I've been quiet about for a really long time. You see, my life started out learning to keep secrets, learning to stay quiet. And that's what I've done. And in 2005, my sister was kind enough to put me through a program called Landmark Curriculum for Living. If you don't know what it is, look it up. And if you ever have a chance to experience it, I really suggest that you do, because I still live some of those values that I learned, and I believe in their program. And I can be caught saying probably daily some of the things that I learned there. But I shared my story. At the time I was only 25, so that story really was just kind of wrapped around my my anger at my grandfather and God and things. And by the end of the seminar, I had shared with thousands of people, and so many of them had come to me and my family and thanked me and thanked my family and told me that I had changed their lives. I had a grown man, a grown businessman, well off businessman, in his suit at my knees, crying, telling me that my story caused him to walk outside and call his family, and for the first time in his life, break his silence. When I first found out I had this condition, which at the time I thought was a death sentence, not even necessarily like physically, like I thought, how can I live with this? How can I do this? Nobody's gonna want me. Nobody's gonna want to be around me. I was uneducated. I didn't understand. I have friends who are infected, and I so regret not learning for them, for their sake, for not standing up and speaking for them, that it took me being infected. But my mom said this little cliche thing I'm sure we've all heard our whole lives: everything happens for a reason, right? The only way I can make it through this life is to believe that. First time I heard the Time's Up speech, speaking of, here's my Time's Up times 2. A year and a half ago when I heard the first speech, just the beginning of getting really sick still. I hadn't been hospitalized. I didn't know what was wrong with me. I was motivated. I started writing. I started telling everybody around me that I wanted to be a part of this movement. That time was up. That it was time to talk. I knew it was time to talk. And I got sicker and sicker and sicker, and ended up in the hospital, as we all know. And then I had to go through the recovery of that. And for those of you who don't know, and if you do know about HIV, and if you don't, I suggest that you do educate yourself. I suggest everybody educates themselves. But by the time I ended up in the hospital, I had a viral load of 717,000, and a CD4 count of 34. Pretty brutal. My oxygen was only at about 52%, and my organs were in failure. I had pneumocystis, pneumonia. I had cryptococcus in my body from exposure through my job. I had opportunistic infections taking over my body, and I was days away from dying. And when I woke up from being on the ventilator, I was unable to move. I was unable to walk. I was unable to still breathe on my own. I had to go through rehabilitation to learn to use my hands and my legs again, to speak again. Those are more. I'll share that later. There's a lot to that. Anyways, it's coming up on a year. And they just had the Time's Up Times 2 speech at the beginning of this year. And June, as we know, is Pride Month. And Pride here in Tulsa is a week away. A little bit over a week away. I happen to work for an amazing company that promotes diversity and inclusion and equality, love. Those are all their core values. And they really love their employees. They stood by me through my hospitalization. They had their own doctors and nurses check on my insurance as doctors and nurses just to make sure that I had the health care I need. They sent me every resource that they could come up with. They're huge in Arizona, where our home base is, in the LGBTQ community there, and Pride. And in the last couple of years, they've asked us to get involved. And last year, just 3 weeks before I was hospitalized, I spearheaded us being involved in the Pride Parade. And I'm doing it again this year. And with their permission, they have said that I can ask my friends and family to join. Ask our LGBTQ customers and family and friends and anybody really, anybody that believes in unconditional love, to join us. And I want as many of you to come out and join us as you will, please. Not only that, they've given me permission to also carry some of my own banners for HIV and AIDS awareness. How powerful and how amazing is that? To know that they stand behind me. This isn't about me though, guys. It's about our community. It's about breaking the stigma. It's about ending the silence. And it's not just about HIV. It's not. But let's be real. It has raged in our LGBT community. And that's where the stigma is placed. And it's not fair. It's not fair to them. It's not fair to those who aren't infected that way. I was in Dubuque, Iowa recently on a wonderful trip, and I thought it was beautiful. Literally, so many street corners have HIV awareness banners and information signs, and I thought, how wonderful is that this education is everywhere. The one thing that got me, though, was it was the same picture on every single banner. The same absolutely stunning, beautiful drag queen. That is not the face of AIDS. It is not the only face of AIDS. And now, this face, my face, women's faces, not just gay, lesbian, whatever label you want to put on it. If you want one for me, let's call me pansexual. Let's blow your minds with that one. I'm not attracted to gender. I'm attracted to values, and I'm attracted to people's attributes, their soul, their energy. What's on the outside doesn't matter. I want to change that face. I want to spread awareness. I want to break the silence. not just about AIDS, not just about sexual abuse. Just break the silence. There's so many things that everybody is just staying quiet about. We're yapping about things that don't matter, arguing about stupid things over skin color or things that just don't freaking matter. Over sexuality, it doesn't matter. Those are diversions, they're distractions. I saw some powerful pictures of the AIDS awareness movement in San Francisco when this first happened in the 80s. And the one that comes back to me that I keep seeing, and it's something that I hashtag often, is silence is deadly. It is in every form. Silence causes uneducation, it causes miseducation. It doesn't matter what stigma you're trying to break. It doesn't matter if it's mental health. Silence is deadly. Not talking will be the death of us all. You want to hear a scary fact? Here's one for you. This is why I know. I lost my train of thought earlier. When I was diagnosed, I really was devastated. And over time, I've realized that this has happened for a reason, and that reason is because I've got a big fat mouth. A real big fat mouth. And I like to use it, and I like to talk to people, and I like to educate people. That's what I do where I work. I educate people all day long on pets and loving their animals and infectious zoonotic diseases. How ironic that I end up with one, right? The story really is one of beautiful irony. But I know it's because I have to speak. We all have to speak. We have veterans who are suicidal from PTSD, who aren't talking, that need help and need love and need to let it out. And we need to hear them. We need to receive them. People like me shouldn't be afraid to come out and talk to people. I had an experience, and I will start by saying that this person has come back and apologized and is educating themselves. But I had an experience with somebody that I really thought I had a connection to. And when I shared my diagnosis with him, he literally, I thought he was going to cry. I thought he was going to break down. And he got away from me so fast, got out of my vehicle so fast, and into his, that he left all of his belongings in my car. Left his bag of weed, like who leaves their bag of weed? Just ran off. Deleted and blocked by the time he was out of the park. Went from telling me that I was the most perfect thing, so many things, to running away from me. It shouldn't be like that. And it's not going to change if we don't talk. Nothing's going to change if we don't talk. So, if you can, come out to Pride and walk with me next weekend here in Tulsa. Join us. Wear your rainbow, wear your red for AIDS awareness, wear whatever it is that makes you feel freaking comfortable. If you believe in inclusion, you believe in equality, you believe in awareness, if you're ready to break the silence and stop the stigma, come join me, please. And if you've watched this and I've touched your heart, please share it. Please. Thank you. Cupcake out.